we're going to get started with our call. So first of all, I just wanted to just welcome you to Hope for Moms Who've Messed Up. And I don't think there's a mom who doesn't fit the criteria, who hasn't messed up at least once in their life. And maybe some of us have messed up quite a bit more than others, but I want to just welcome you to the call. So just wanted to have a little bit of interaction during our call. I don't want to be the one doing all the talking, but so I would love to hear and let me know where you're from. I'd love to hear that. I think earlier I did say something about maybe you weren't on yet, but earlier I was saying that I was having some technical difficulties, and one second, something's going on. Okay, hold on a second. What's going on? I don't know why. Okay. So anyway, I was saying that I was having some technical difficulties, and so I'm hoping that we can get all of that taken care of. Hopefully I've already taken care of all of that. If not, then we may just have audio, and that's okay if we just have audio. So anyway, again, I wanted to welcome you to our call and wanted to get a chance to just greet some of you and find out where are you calling from. If you can send me a Facebook message if you know my Facebook page, or you can tweet me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Alicia, Alecia, capital R, capital B, A, P as in Peter, I, S, T, E. Send me a little message on Twitter, and I would love to just hear where you're from and just to say, hi, I'm here. And tell me what you're most grateful for. I'd love to hear what you are grateful for. I see I have a caller in the 423 area code, and is that you, Karen? Hi. I want to say hi to you. I'm glad you were able to join me this evening. It's great to have you on the call with me. Okay, so I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alicia Baptiste. I'm a wife, been married for 20 years to my husband, Edward Baptiste. And we were college sweethearts. We actually met in a public speaking class. And I've been a mom for 19 years. My oldest son actually just turned 19 a couple of weeks ago. And so 19 years of being a mom, that's my experience. And of those 19 years, I've homeschooled, I guess you can say 16 of those, because when he turned about 3 years old, I was gung-ho, ready to start teaching him. I mean, technically I started teaching him before that, but I didn't consider it homeschooling until he was about 3 years old. And I've been a mentor and an encourager of moms for, for quite a while. It's always been my heart to help others. And as I've had the opportunity, especially in the area of homeschooling, I've come alongside of lots of homeschoolers. At one point, I was a director of a major homeschooling a national homeschooling program, and had an opportunity to mentor lots of ladies, and actually did some webinars related to that organization. So this is my first webinar on my own, and just love encouraging moms. And I've taught at retreats and taught Bible studies and women's conferences, and had lots of things that I've hosted actually live in my own home. So just love encouraging moms. I have 4 children, and if you're able to see online, you'll see my 4 wonderful children and my husband as well. There's a picture of us together after my son's graduation, And my oldest son is Brian. He's 19. My oldest daughter is Bianca. She is 15. My youngest son is Edward. He's 13. And my baby, which she would hate me calling her that, my youngest is Felicia, and she is 11 years old. So it has been quite a journey. Yes, I have 2 girls and 2 boys, as they say, the perfect family. I don't know that that's perfect, but anyway. And as you know, if you're a mom, and I'm assuming you're a mom if you're on this call, you know that it is not easy being a mom. And that's why I have such a heart of coming alongside of other moms and just sharing the things that I've learned along the way. And I've gone through lots of challenges with these kiddos and just want to be able to come alongside of other moms and just share with them. My mission is to release moms of the burdens of fear, guilt, unforgiveness, perfectionism, leaving them free to focus on what's most important to them and allowing them to give their children what only they can give them. In short, I empower moms to be the mom their children need. So if you're on this call, I want to tell you who this call is for. It's for moms who are afraid of failing their kids. It's for moms who live with a lot of regret over past mistakes. It's for moms who want a better life for their kids. It's for moms who seem like they just can't get it right. It's for moms who feel helpless. It's for moms who don't know how to help a struggling child. And it's for moms who need an extra dose of encouragement. And hopefully you've heard yourself somewhere in that description. So what can you expect on this call? Well, you can expect hope. You can expect some encouragement. And you can expect some simple, practical strategies that you can use today. So I want to start off with a story that has been extremely encouraging to me, and I hope that it will be encouraging to you as well. It's a story about, well, as if you can see the picture, which I think I'm about to lose. He is a world-renowned neurosurgeon. He performed some pretty amazing surgeries that he's well known for. He separated twin babies that were joined at the head, which in the past that had never been done without one or both of them dying. And he successfully performed that surgery, and they both lived. He's also been a part of some other international world-renowned surgeries related to the brain. And just an all-around amazing man. He actually has written several books. He's been an international speaker, and he may run for president. I know there's a lot of people who would love for him to run for president. So I think that might be a possibility. So let me see here. I'm trying to see if I can get my video. I lost my video here for a minute, and I'm just trying to bring it back up again. Okay. So his mother's name, I want to actually spend my time talking about his mom. I just wanted to kind of introduce who he is, but I want to talk about his mom because his mom actually deserves some honor. She's quite an amazing woman herself. But as I share her story, I think you might be able to perhaps let me just start sharing her story. Her name is Sonia Carson. She is a mom that had a lot going against her. She grew up in foster care. She talks about being made fun of all throughout her childhood. She talks about how she just felt different from other kids. She couldn't talk plainly. She grew up impoverished, and she ended up married at age 13. And I wanted to say hi, Kimberly. Thanks for joining us on the call. I'm glad you were able to make it. And just as a heads up, I've been having some technical difficulties with my video, so the video may get cut off at some point. If it does, then you can feel free, if you can't hear me, to call in. So, but we're going to keep this thing going because I want to continue to share what I have with you. Anyway, Sonia Carson married her husband. He was Mr. Carson. I think it was Robert Carson. And he was like her savior. He, at the age of 13, he rescued her from a life of poverty. And so she thought, wow, my life is looking up. Wow, this is going to be great. But after being married for several years and having 2 children, with Ben being one of those children, and he has an older brother who's about 2 years older than him, she discovered that her husband had a completely different life. Not only was he participating in illegal activities, but he had a completely different family with other children and a wife that she did not even know existed. And this was devastating for her. Here she was thinking that she had found her savior, and she finds out that she's been completely duped by this man. Of course, because she was married at such a young age, at age 13, she really had no education. And she had very few skills, with the exception of, well, cleaning and taking care of kids. But once she decided, she made up in her mind that she was going to leave this man who really was not a husband to her and really had hurt her in ways that I can't even imagine. She decided she was going to raise her 2 boys on her own. She was determined to make a better life for her children. Now, this wasn't easy. I mean, she struggled emotionally, and she even attempted suicide at least once, and she took some sort of pills and overdosed on the pills, and so she ended up going to the hospital and had to have her stomach pumped. And while she was there, she met a woman, and this woman began to talk to her about Jesus and how much God loved her. And Sonia was not impressed at all. She had heard about this God, and in fact, her husband was a pastor, and so she really didn't want to have anything to do with God. She thought she kind of knew about all that stuff, and she didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so when this lady began to tell her about how much God loved her, she pretty much just brushed her off. But this woman continued to come to the hospital. This woman continued to just be her friend and just show her love and compassion. And before Sonia left the hospital, this lady came and she gave her a Bible as a gift. Well, Sonia was pretty, she really didn't know how to react to this. She just couldn't believe this woman would give her such a precious gift. And so it really impacted her. Well, not long after this, Sonia experienced a turning point. And this is what she says. She says she realized that God had not given up on me and never would. She made another statement. She says, if anybody else can do it, I can do it better. In fact, when you read Ben Carson's books, he talks about her saying this a lot to him as well, him and his brother as well. If anybody else can do it, you can do it better. She even said, I didn't worry about whether or not that was true or not, but she just kept telling herself, if anybody else can do it, I can do it better. And she told God, God, you have to help me. That was when things began to take a turn. Remarkable things began to happen in her life. Now, when I say that remarkable things happened in her life, I don't mean that the sun came out, she got the best job ever, she lived in a wonderful home, and it was happily ever after. Remarkable things began to happen, but it took a lot of hard work. But she was determined. She said, I was going to give God my best, and then it was up to God to do the rest. She worked 3 jobs. Finances were extremely tight. As a matter of fact, there was a time when she had to give up her home and rent out her home. There was a time when she had to live with family. There were lots of things, lots of sacrifices that she had to make. She saved and she scrimped and she did everything she could to try to provide a better life for her boys. She still struggled with depression. There were a few times during her children's upbringing where she checked herself into a mental institution for help. And at the time, Dr. Carson and his brother stayed with family while she was in those places. So it was hard. She still didn't have any friends. And on top of that, her boys were failing school. And if you've ever listened to Dr. Carson speak, you will hear him talk about the fact that he and his brother were not doing well in school. As a matter of fact, Ben talks about during his 5th grade year, he was the worst student in his classroom. Hi, Kim. Great to have you join me. Thanks a lot. I'm so happy you were able to come. But Ben talks about being the worst student in class. My children and I just a couple of weeks ago went to a homeschooling convention, and he spoke there, and he talked about how there was this argument on the playground where they were trying to decide who was the dumbest kid in the school. And they had a big argument, but then they all came to this conclusion that Ben Carson was definitely the dumbest kid in school. And then they decided, well, who do you think's the dumbest person in the world? And they kind of came to the conclusion that he was the dumbest person in the world, but he didn't want to take it quite that far. He could take being the dumbest kid in the school, but he just couldn't take being the dumbest person in the entire world. But I say all that to say, Ben was in a pretty tough place. He was failing all of his classes, and his mom was just doing everything that she could to provide a better life for her kids. And she was kind of at a loss. How can I help my boys? I know that my boys can do better. I want better for my boys than what I have, but how do I do it? Well, I'm going to share with you what she did with her kids to help them become successful. But I'm going to just give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. I will tell you that by the end of that school year, his 5th grade school year, he became one of the best students in the classroom. He ended up graduating from high school at the top of his class. He received a scholarship to Yale University. He majored in pre-med. He went on to medical school, and of course, like I told you before, he became a world-renowned neurosurgeon. So have I piqued your interest in wanting to know what she did? I hope that I have. She asked God for help. She talks about, and Ben talks about this a lot in his books as well, when he came home with his report card, were all F's and maybe a D somewhere along the way, and she just didn't know what to do. So she told her sons, I'm going to spend the night praying, and I'm going to ask God to show me what to do, because I just have no clue what to do with you. And she said, she made some mention about, I think God cares he has some special care for widows and orphans. And so I think he might answer me. You know, I told you earlier that she had already decided that she was going to be in a partnership with God that he was going to have to help her because she knew that she did not have the resources on her own to provide what her kids needed. So anyway, God gave her the answer. The next day, she reported to her children what God had told her to do. She said, you're going to read 2 books a week. Well, first of all, they were just moaning and groaning over that because they were like they hadn't even read a book a week. How could they read 2 books a week? She said, you will go to the library every week. You will check out 2 books. You will read them in the entirety, and you will write a book report on it. And then she sealed the deal with, you can only watch 3 TV shows a week. Oh, my goodness. Mr. Carson talks about how they moaned and groaned. They thought they were being abused. They hated what she proposed to them. And the interesting thing was, she proposed this. She wanted them to write a book report every week, and they did it. They did do this. But she couldn't even read the reports. She would take the reports that they would give to her, and she would act like she was reading it, and she'd take a pen and she'd mark some things on it, underline some things, put some checks in different places, and then she would give it back to them. They had no idea that she couldn't even read what they wrote. But she accomplished what she was trying to accomplish, which was she wanted their sons to do better than she did, and she wanted her sons to have a better life than even the people that were around them. She says this, she says, I had a plan. My boys were going to have a good life because with God's help, they were going to make their own way. My job was to prepare them, and I turned to God for help every inch of the way. Isn't that an encouraging thought? That here it is, this lady was uneducated. She had I can't think of anything she had going for her. She was a black woman. She was poor. She was uneducated. She had no family. She had no friends. She had some family, but her family was not really helping her. She had no support. And she wasn't making very much money, so she was in poverty. And so what does she have going for her except God? And so she called on him to help her, and he indeed did help her every step of the way. So, I think that Miss Carson really gives me some hope, and I hope and pray that she gives you some hope as well. And what she teaches me is that your past mistakes don't dictate your future. She made some pretty bad mistakes. Number one, she married a man that she shouldn't have married. She married at too young of an age. And not only was it her mistakes, but, there were other mistakes. Her parents obviously made some pretty big mistakes because she was in foster care. And she said she just never had anybody that really cared for her and loved her. But in spite of that, she still had hope that there was a future. And there was. She ended up going to school, becoming an interior designer. And so even her past mistakes didn't dictate what would happen in her future. She also teaches us that if you want something different, you have to do something different. She realized that she couldn't look at the people who were around her who were in just as bad a shape as she was in, or even worse, and say, hey, what should I do? How should I raise my kids? She couldn't go to her family who were in just as bad a shape as she was in and say, what should I do? But she knew she had to do something different from what she was doing. She knew that what she was doing up to the point of 5th grade was not helping her sons to succeed in school. So she had to do something else. She just didn't know what that something else was. And you know, how often do we want something different for our lives, and yet we keep doing the same thing that we've been doing, hoping, crossing our fingers and praying that we will get a different result? I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to women and people in general. They've been frustrated about their lives, and yet when you propose, why don't you try this thing? They refuse to try something different. They just want the circumstances of life to just change magically without them doing something different from what they're doing. And to be honest, I think we're all guilty of that. I know who doesn't want to have some sort of magic, easy button? Can I just push the easy button and everything just changes? That would be nice, wouldn't it? But it just doesn't work that way. And for those of you who are feeling a sense of hopelessness, maybe you've been divorced, maybe you've had children before marriage, maybe someone's done something to you that has been harmful. Maybe you've had a child who is struggling and you just feel completely inadequate to help them. Maybe you just yelled at your kid today. I mean, we've all messed up in some way. Whatever you've done in your past, you can decide today to begin a new path. It's never too late. There's always this moment to say, yes, today I begin a new path. And so I want to talk about a little bit about what that might look like. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I've wanted to do something different. I've wanted to go down a new path. And then I'm like, okay, let me see if I can figure this out. And I think, especially in this day and age where there's so much information, we can go to the library, we can go to the bookstores, we can get online, and we can research and try to figure it out on our own. And spend hours and days and weeks trying to figure out how to do this something different that I want. And so what I want to just ask the question, why try to figure it out on your own? Why? For Sonia, she really didn't have anyone that she could go to, except she did go to God. She didn't try to figure it out on her own. I'm assuming, I would think that she probably did try, but she fell flat. And let me be honest with you, I've been there myself. I've tried to figure it out and hope, and I'm not sure if that's going to work, but let's just keep experimenting until we figure it out. And I've learned a better way. Get help. Find others who are doing the very thing that you want to do. As a mom, that means finding an older mom or just a mom one step ahead of me. She doesn't have to have all of her kids adults, and she doesn't have to have done it perfectly. But find someone who's one step ahead of you, who has the life that you want, and say, can you help me? Tell me how to get where you are, because I'm tired of spinning my wheels trying to figure this thing out on my own. You need support to do something new. Think about it. If you decided to go on maybe for the new year you decided you wanted to start eating healthier or start working out, and it's really easy to start something new for like 5 seconds and then give up and go back to your normal routine. Because let's just face it, if it was easy to make change, you would have done it a long time ago and you would have stuck with it. But the fact is, it's hard to make change, and it's hard to continue doing something that you're just not used to doing. It's hard to create new habits, and especially when they're really good habits. And so you really need support in order to do something new. You need that personal trainer that's coming behind you and saying, okay, you need to be here at the gym every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to be here waiting for you at 2 o'clock. And then when you get here, I've got your workout for you. And I'm going to be asking you about how your diet has been going. You need that support. It is, I think sometimes we think that accountability is like, oh, that's just so restraining, and oh, that's just so mean. But actually, it's really freeing, because now I don't have to start working myself up to try to make myself do something I don't want to do. I have somebody else to answer to that is encouraging me to do the thing that just doesn't come easily. And we need to surround ourselves with people that are like-minded and avoid the people who pull us down. And I think that's one of the things that often when we decide we want to do something new or different, especially when we're ready to make a huge life change, and we're still around the same people that we've been around who are doing the same thing that we're trying to get away from, we find ourselves being pulled down by those people. They're the ones that are saying, oh, you can't do it. Oh, this is just the way it is. Why are you trying to do that? That's not going to work. Well, I don't understand why you're doing that. Why are you going over there? You need people around you who are positive and encouraging, who are saying, oh, wow, yes, you can do it. Yes, I know it's hard, but it's okay. Keep it up. Keep it up. You need those kind of people, because the fact of the matter is, when you're doing something that's new, and really, if you're doing anything that's good, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to experience some frustration and difficulties. And when those times come, you don't need the naysayer saying, I told you you couldn't do it. I don't know why you were even trying to do it anyway. You need to just get back over here with the rest of us and just keep doing what we've been doing. Or perhaps they're just making fun of you, thinking that you're dumb, you're ridiculous. Why don't you just go come over here and have fun with the rest of us? I'll tell you a funny story. I was at I think it was like for Easter. I was invited to a friend's house, our family was, and they're huge hostesses, and they love having lots of people over. And so we had a huge spread of food, and so we were kind of helping to prepare some of the food, and there was one of the guests that meeting him for the first time. And I said something to the effect of, oh, yeah, I don't eat dairy and I don't eat gluten. And he said something really negative about it. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was like, well, the rest of us people are going to, have a great time and eat what we want to eat and not, have to restrain ourselves like, you people that are trying to be healthy kind of thing. And, of course, it really didn't bother me, but I thought about how when someone is trying to do something positive for themselves, how many times do you hear other people who are not making those same choices, they almost take it as a personal attack on them because they've decided not to make those healthy choices. Well, now I've got to make fun of you and make it seem like you're just a dork or something because you decided to do something like that. And we're going to experience that. I mean, you can't evaporate yourself from the world, but you need to have lots of people around you who are affirming you and encouraging you and showing you what is possible. I also want to encourage you to invest in yourself. As moms, I totally have bought into the lie that our children and our husbands come first and we come dead last. And that is a lie. The fact is, moms are the ones that kind of keep the families together. We are the ones that are constantly pouring into our children and our husbands. We're pouring into them love, courage, encouragement, wisdom, knowledge. I mean, there's so much that we are constantly pouring into our kids. And you cannot pour from an empty cup. Let's just be real here. And I believe that is why so many moms are frustrated. That's why so many moms are at their wits' end. They're overwhelmed. They're stuck. They are just like pulling their hair out. They just don't know what to do. And then you end up not being able to give your children what they really need because you don't have it in you to give to them. And so I want to encourage us as moms to invest in ourselves. What do I mean by investing in ourselves? I mean getting the support and the help you need to be what you need to be for your children. If that's going to classes, if that's getting a personal coach, a mentor, if that's going to conferences and conventions, all those things that if you were in some sort of a profession, you would have no problem doing that. But because I'm just a mom, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing just because I gave birth to them. I'm just supposed to know what I'm doing, and I don't need any help. And so I just want to dispel that myth. We need help, and we need support, and we need to invest in ourselves. Because an investment in yourself is an investment in your children. I want you to just imagine a cup. And I want you to imagine investing in yourself is like someone pouring water into an empty cup. And pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring until that cup overflows. Your children benefit from the overflow. Now you have something to pour into your children. And not only your children, but your husband and others who are in your circle of influence. We want to be the kind of person that we want our children to be. And so while we're teaching our kids to be people who are kind and compassionate and generous, while we're encouraging our children to chase their dreams, to be people who believe in the impossible, that the impossible is possible, while we're telling our children to work hard, all those things, are they seeing those things in us? Are they seeing us do hard things? Are they seeing us come out of our comfort zone? Are they seeing us grow? Are they seeing us, as we talked about, invest in ourselves? Be the kind of person you want your children to be. I want to encourage you tonight that you are the mom your child needs. I've seen so many moms, and I'll be honest, I've done it myself. We look around and we look at someone else and we go, wow, she's such a great mom. And we look at our kids and we go, wow, if I was like her, man, my child would be in great shape. If only I could do like her. If only I had that gift. If only I had gone to school like her. If only, if only, if only. It seems like every other mom, it seems like they should be our children's mom. When in reality, God chose you as the mom to your children. And the reality is you are the mom your child needs. Why would God give your children a mom they didn't need? If they needed someone else's mom, I think he would have given that mom to them. But I'm completely convinced that God has placed within you everything that you need to be the mom your children need. Just like our story of Sonia Carson. Sonia was the mom that Dr. Carson and his brother needed. They didn't need a mom that had gone to college. They didn't need a mom who was married at age 25. They didn't need a mom who came from a wealthy family. They needed Sonia Carson, that mom who got on her knees and cried out to the God in heaven and said, can you help me? Show me how to help my children. And if we do the same, we can be confident that God